The land we live in seems to be strong and active. But how fares the land that lives in us? Grover Cleveland, Patriotism and Holiday Observance.
In the morning there was a big wind blowing, and the waves were running high up on the beach, and he was awake a long time before he remembered that his heart was broken. Ernest Hemingway, 10 Indians.
Why is there a glop of macaroni salad next to the Japanese chicken in my plate lunch? Because the ship Thaddeus left Boston Harbor with the first boatload of New England missionaries bound for Hawaii in 1819. That, and it's Saturday, Rainbow Drive-In only serves shoyu chicken 4 days a week. A banyan tree in Waikiki is a fine spot for a sunburned tourist from New York City to sit beneath and ponder the historical implications of a lukewarm box of takeout. Because none of us belong here. Not me, not the macaroni, not the chicken soaked in soy sauce, not even the tree. This book tells the story of how Americans and their children spent the 78 years between the arrival of Protestant missionaries in 1820 and the American annexation in 1898, Americanizing Hawaii, importing our favorite religion, capitalism, and our second favorite religion, Christianity. It is also the story of how Hawaiians withstood these changes and how the Hawaiian ruling class willingly participated in the process. Before the white revolutionaries overthrew the Queen with the help of U.S. Marines in 1893, the preceding decades provide a de facto case study in what the political scientist Stephen Lukes called soft power, the process by which one people gets another group of people to want what you want. In this case, American missionaries, as well as their frequent foes and fellow Americans, the commercial sailors, inspired the Hawaiians to want money, education, constitutional government, Christian salvation, and Western material goods. After the United States minister to Hawaii conspired with the missionary boys in the overthrow of the Queen, he reported to Washington, "The Hawaiian pear is now fully ripe, and this is the golden hour for the United States to pluck it." In certain ways, the Americanization of Hawaii in the 19th century parallels the Americanization of America. Just as their Puritan forebears had set off on their errand into the wilderness of New England, the New England missionaries set sail for the Sandwich Islands, a place they thought of as a spiritual wilderness. Just as perhaps 9 out of 10 natives of the Americas were wiped out by contact with European diseases, so was the native Hawaiian population ravaged by smallpox, measles, whooping cough, and venereal disease. Just as the Industrial Revolution and the building of the railroads brought in the huddled masses of immigrants to the United States, the sugar plantations founded by the sons of the missionaries required massive imports of labor, primarily from China, Japan, Korea, Portugal, and the Philippines, transforming Hawaii into what it has become, a multi-ethnic miscellany in which every race is a minority. Hence the plate lunch. 2 scoops of Japanese-style rice and 1 scoop of macaroni salad seemingly airlifted from some church potluck in Anywhere, USA, are served alongside a Polynesian or Asian protein such as kalua pig, chicken adobo, teriyaki beef, or loco moco, a hamburger patty topped with gravy and a fried egg, a dish presumably invented to remedy what has always been the hamburger's most obvious defect: not enough egg. Sugar plantation workers used to share food at lunchtime, swapping tofu and Chinese noodles for Korean spare ribs and Portuguese bread. That habit of hodgepodge got passed down, evolving into the plate lunch now served at diners, drive-ins, and lunch trucks throughout the Hawaiian archipelago. In 1961, the late Seiju Ifuku established the Rainbow Drive-In, the joint on the edge of Waikiki where I bought my plate lunch. Ifuku had been an Army cook with the 100th Infantry Battalion. The mostly Hawaii-born Japanese-American volunteer soldiers in the 100th and the 442nd Regimental Combat Team served as segregated troops in Europe and North Africa during World War II, becoming the most decorated unit in U.S. military history and earning the nickname the Purple Heart Battalion. Their motto was "Remember Pearl Harbor." Their argument was that they were Americans, not, as the U.S. government classified them and their families, enemy aliens. Rainbow Drive-In's menu, offering teriyaki, hot dogs, mahi-mahi, and Portuguese sausage, reads like a list of what America is supposed to be like, a neighborly mishmash. Barack Obama, the Honolulu-born President of the United States, mentioned once on a trip home his craving for plate lunch, listing Rainbow Drive-In as a possible stop. Makes sense considering that his Kansan mother met his Kenyan father at the University of Hawaii, and his mother's remarriage blessed him with a half-Indonesian sister. He's our first plate lunch president. I suppose the double-sided way I see the history of Hawaii as a painful tale of native loss combined with an idealistic multi-ethnic saga symbolized by mixed plates in which soy sauce and mayonnaise peacefully coexist and congeal tracks with how I see the history of the United States in general. I am the descendant of Cherokees who were marched at gunpoint by the U.S. Army to Oklahoma on the Trail of Tears. Incidentally, the Cherokees were Christianized and educated by the American Board of Commissioners for Foreign Missions, the very same New England organization that Christianized and educated the Hawaiians. Yet I'm also, and mostly, the descendant of European immigrants, notably Swedish peasants who left for Kansas for the same reasons Asian and Portuguese plantation workers sailed to Hawaii. Whenever I eat plate lunch, I always think back to the lore of my Swedish great-grandfather's voyage across the Atlantic. Supposedly, the only food he brought with on the ship was a big hunk of cheese. Then he befriended a German in steerage whose only food was a big hunk of sausage. The Swede shared his cheese with the German, and the German shared his sausage with the Swede. Growing up, I came to know America as two places: a rapacious country built on the destruction of its original inhabitants, and a welcoming land of opportunity and generosity built by people who shared their sausage and their cheese. In 1899, the British poet Rudyard Kipling published his famous poem, The White Man's Burden, about the new American empire of island colonies of new-caught sullen peoples. 4 years earlier, when Kipling visited Washington, D.C. for the first time, he met Theodore Roosevelt. Roosevelt dragged Kipling to the Smithsonian to show off glass cases full of American Indian artifacts. Kipling later wrote, "I never got over the wonder of a people who, having extirpated the aboriginals of their continent more completely than any modern race had ever done, honestly believed that they were a godly little New England community setting examples to brutal mankind." Of the 5 countries the United States invaded and/or acquired in 1898, Hawaii is the only one that became a state. That said, I've come to understand that even though Hawaii has been a state since 1959 and an American territory since 1898, a small but defiant network of Native activists question the legality of both developments and do not consider themselves to be Americans at all. Which is pretty easy to pick up on when they're marching past you down the main drag of Honolulu on the 50th anniversary of statehood, carrying picket signs that say, "We are not Americans."